who had just finished a diploma from Egerton to teach agriculture. And she came to Kegoya and found a student body of about 55 students, didn't have shoes, day scholars, tattered shirts, yellow. There were yellow shirts, yellow blouses, and maroon skirts and maroon shorts. And we've been in the meeting in the staff room, and I'm trying to say, can we do more for these students? I remember one time she banged, she had a bunch of keys, threw them at the table and said, Ayiro, how do you expect us to teach these fools? I never forget that. Yeah. Do you know, I left Kegoye, I went to Lubino Boys. I left Lubino Boys, I went to Sunshine. I left Sunshine, I came as a provincial director of education. The board invited me to Kegoye. I had to go back, just taking my feet back where it all began. And I found the lady in the staff room. That was 11 years later. And when I was leaving, she came to the car and said, just help me with one thing. Help me transfer to my home school, to a school near my home. I won't mention where, in Western. And the teachers who are on this platform, you don't go home early because that's where you'll be buried. So you don't, these people keep on saying, I want to teach at home. You don't walk towards your grave too early. Yeah, you walk the world. And then, like now, Ayiro is about to retire. I'll go to Soy, and you people will be coming to visit me when you are passing there or whatever. You don't rush home early to teach in your local primary, high school, or even university. You know, the university is universal. Go out there and come back. But anyway, to cut a long story short, when you don't work for the Lord and you think you're working for the authority, you lose it. Number 3, realize that your pay comes from both now and thereafter. Paul wrote, you receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. Of course, you must get paid now to take care of your household expenses, your family, and so on. But if you have done your very best and given all you have, you will never really get paid all you are worth. So those hardworking people in various institutions, and I'm aware on this platform, we have people from different careers. The money you are paid will never be enough. Never. Nobody can actually pay you. And my experience from high school, I know nobody can ever pay the work teachers give in. The wonderful thing to remember is this: you may get insufficient wages here, but you'll get rewarded beyond measure in heaven, because you receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. What a great reassurance. So God will much more than equalize everything in the judgment. 1 Corinthians 3, 11, 15, 2 Corinthians 5, 9, 10, Ephesians 6, 7, 8. And he will certainly reward you justly if you worked for his kingdom. So I want to pose these questions as I finish. Do you see yourself as a servant? Do you consider him your real boss and work in a manner honoring to the Lord, no matter how menial or boring your job might seem? Have you realized that you have a tremendous reward coming later for faithful labor performed now? And I want to pause there. By the way, heaven is the ultimate. But when you work hard on this earth, God rewards you in many ways. In the kind of family, in your health, in your safety, in your professional growth, in your relationship with people. Those are rewards here on earth, as we anticipate the big reward in heaven. So if so, you are getting the most out of your work. The question is, have you realized that you have a tremendous reward coming later for faithful labor performed now? If you do, then you are getting the most out of your work. And I would like us to encourage each other to work not for anybody else, to work for our Lord. And working for our Lord means working for his people, for his kingdom. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening as your children. And Lord, we submit to you, and we pray that you'll also allow us to submit to our earthly masters, but also to our work. And so for us, teachers, we submit to our students. That is the greatest point of submission. And Lord, we know that the reward awaits us. But we also know that when we make other human beings better, your kingdom grows in strength and in value. And so allow us to be your instruments for converting and for making and for enlarging your kingdom on this earth. For I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Thank
Amen.
you. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you. So because we have run short of time, we shall not do a reflection on our devotion, but I would like to start the seminar as fast as possible. But before that, allow me to introduce a faculty, a professor who is on a leave of absence from Daystar. She was in Egerton, and then we took her at Daystar, and now she's at Calvin in the US. So for 5 years, she's on leave of absence, but she's also engaging with Daystar in very many different things in the back room. I just want to mention that it's very tough to get a positioning from a university in Africa to a university in the US directly. Is a measure of your worth and value. So we feel very proud that Professor Damaris Parsitau, Selina, has been favored by God to be at Calvin, to be in charge of a very important institute. And as she stands there, Africa becomes strong. As she stands there, Daystar is pronounced more. And as she stands there, I think God's kingdom is allowed to grow. So I would like to give her just now 5 minutes, but later on she should be allowed to contribute. In my second seminar, I would be asking her to reinforce what we are doing. So Damaris, welcome.
Thank you, Prof. Good evening, everyone, wherever you are tuning in.
Prof, you can remove the sharing. Right.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Prof, for your kind words. Thank you for that reflection, deeply moving, and thank you for your leadership. I have told you several times that you model the kind of leadership that I have prayed to see in my lifetime in an African university. And I do know that you have been placed there for a reason, and we can see that very clearly. So thank you. And thank you for inviting me to your class, though you hijacked me. I actually have nothing to say, but as a professor, you always have something to say. So I'll introduce myself, and I'll be happy to contribute to the debate. But today I have no presentation to make. So I'm Damaris Selena Parsitau. I was born in Kajiado County, and I worked at Egerton for a very long time, Egerton University, as a lecturer, rising through the ranks, becoming the director of the Institute for Women, Gender and Development Studies. And then I transitioned from Egerton University to work at the British Institute as the country director of the British Institute in Africa. And last year, I transitioned to work in the US at Calvin University as the director of the Legal Institute for the Study of World Christianity. Calvin University is a Christian liberal arts college, and we meditate and reflect about the intersections of faith and learning every day. And one of the things that I've really loved about being there is for me to understand clearly.
Can we sorry, can we mute all of us? Please let us mute here.
I'm trying to get this mute here.
Go ahead, Damaris, go ahead.
And thank you. And to appreciate how my personal faith shapes my learning, my interaction, my research, and how I move in the world. So I'm very grateful to be there, and just listening to the reflection today has taken me back to a couple of weeks ago when every morning we have to reflect about what it means to be agents of renewal in the world. And I think this evening, the powerful reflection that has been shared by the Vice Chancellor is a testament of how we create renewal in our own worlds. We create renewal in our classes as we are doing today, and making the world a better place by shaping the minds of our students, of our colleagues. So I just wanted to talk very briefly about what I do. I have a background. So I'm a professor of religion and gender studies and development studies. Right now, I direct the Institute for the Study of World Christianity. So I focus on research to do with Christianity in the global South. And one of the things we do, my institute is a grant-making institution that grants money to people to undertake theologically inspired research in Africa, Latin America, Asia, and what is generally regarded as the global South. And what we are doing is shaping higher education in a way that creates social transformation. So people are engaging in all kinds of, ideas on how faith shapes the world, how it shapes our lives, how we teach in classroom, how we create a critical mass of leaders who are positioning themselves to be agents of renewal in the world. And I think that's what we are doing today. So besides that, I do have a policy, a research and policy and evidence-based training. I worked at the Brookings Institutions, which is a policy think tank in Washington, D.C. So I learned how to write for policy. And I'll give you an example. So for example, if I don't know how many of you during the COVID-19 pandemic undertook, accepted to be vaccinated. And I know this is political, but I just want to ask a few questions. I did research and discovered that so many people, not just in Kenya, but across the world, resisted the vaccine, which was such a lifesaver for most people. And there were all kinds of situations, there were all kinds of conversations and discourses about how it's going to kill you, how it's going to affect women, how it's going to affect children, and that sort of thing. If, for example, governments wanted to ensure that everyone accepts vaccination as a way of controlling diseases and pandemic, the best thing to do is to undertake evidence-based research so that they are able to delineate why are people fighting this vaccine? What are their fears? What are their reasons? And based on that evidence-based research, the government will be able to know how to respond to resistance of vaccines. So I learned how to do research that will definitely impact policy and lead to transformation of societies. So that's a background I bring here, but also as a career educationist for many years. I have taught at university for a very long time. I am, and research is what moves me. I come alive when I'm doing research, when I'm directing research, when I am supporting my students to be able to undertake research. But let me say one thing, that research is collaborative. One of the things I thrive in is creating research communities across the world. And I think this is what is happening here. We are creating a research family, a research community, and creating a cohort of students who will be able to respond to the problems bogging this country by undertaking critical research. But this work has to be collaborative. There is no way you can do research on your own and succeed and make impact. It has to be collaborative. And just sharing an example of my own journey, I do remember, and I think a few of my colleagues here have alluded to that fact. A couple of years, for those of us who are my age mates, when we started writing our PhDs, we had very little support. You actually are meandering and groping in the dark until you find your way. You basically teach yourself to do research because whatever kind of training was available was either insufficient or people were just not willing to teach you how to do research. So you learn by trial and error. And I guess from where I sit at the Nagel Institute, every day we are bombarded with how African students do not think critically, how they do not know how to write research proposals, how they are not able to write good theses because they lack that sort of training. And, you know, I sit and feel bad. I feel bad for my continent. I feel bad for my country. And I ask myself, what can I do? How do I create spaces in which we can support our students, in which we can support our professors to be able to do some of the best researches in the world? Professor Ayiro has already said that in terms of statistics, the kind of research we generate in the continent, it's barely 2%. And we must rise up to that challenge and find ways of not just becoming statistical minorities and raising that further, but also ensuring that we are producing research that leads to respect, but also lead to better societies, because there's a very clear intersections between research and transformation in our country, in our continent. So I will stop there and thank you, Professor, for this opportunity. Thank you for inviting me to this class. I'll be able to support you in teaching whatever aspect of the class you want me to support you while I'm still here and even when I go back to the US. So thank you so much for your leadership and for everything.
Thank you. Thank you, Parsitau. I think those of us on this platform who are incisive in the way they look at things, you can see this is a big opportunity for us to relate to this institute and by extension other institutes and institutions for the furtherance of the research agenda. So thank you very much, and we are proud of having you as a member of faculty at Daystar. I would like to start off. We are trying to share chapter 3, and this is what I would like to do with chapter 3, I would like to first of all go through the mechanics of research methodology in this first seminar. And then in the second seminar next weekend, now begin to go into the practical steps to writing chapter 3. And I really want to be clear here that what I'll be doing in seminar 3 is to write the research methodology chapter. This seminar 1, I am going to go through the mechanics, the concepts, the constructs that form the framework for chapter 3, which is research methodology. I'm aware that a lot of these things you have encountered them, but I'm trying to bring them in a way such that they light up something in you in anticipation of seminar 2, where we are going to write the actual chapter. So I'm very clear in this chapter of chapter 3, we are going to reintroduce the topic and retaliate the research problem as the basis of the study. The chapter also will provide another introduction and overview of the research topic. Remember, research is repetitive and there is a running thread between the chapters. And the first section will actually mirror chapter 1. So the content should be exactly the same as the content in chapter 1, but packaged differently. And the researcher, we will make sure that you don't reinvent the wheel. And it should be very easy for us to develop that chapter. I guess in looking at the material I have prepared from my book, we might have to look for another day. This will take about 3 seminars because I want to extensively convince you on the centrality of chapter 3, because chapter 3 allows you to internalize the philosophy of your research, gives birth to the research design, and then runs to the demographics, the population, and the sample, talks about the instruments, goes to data collection procedures, and we shall divide this from into qualitative and quantitative. I've done that division. So we'll have data collection, qualitative, data collection, quantitative, and then data analysis. I'll also want to break it up into data analysis for quantitative and data analysis for qualitative, practical examples. And when we talk about data analysis, for example, for quantitative, I'll be looking at our research questions. I'll make you run back to your research questions, tease out the dependent variables, the details, tease out the independent variables details, teach you about data management, get into data analysis, the statistical instruments using a case study. And the case study I've picked is using a one-way ANOVA for examining the group mean differences. And then we'll come to qualitative data analysis, the what, the why, and the how. And the data analysis, again, qualitative, we'll go back to the research questions. We'll do data preparation, we'll do data collection and sample, we'll do data analysis procedure, and en vivo will be the tool I'll use myself to demonstrate the data analysis, and then the data analysis strategy, and then data management. And then in this chapter, I want to, in this actual practice, we'll look at reliability, very important. And I am very deliberate. We'll get into instrument reliability, inter-rate observer reliability, test, retest, parallel forms of reliability, and internal consistency reliability, because we really want to come out with theses and by extension proposals that are rigid and meet the international standards. And so we look at the reliability of the instrument, and then qualitative reliability. How do you measure qualitative reliability? Dependability, confirmability, credibility, transferability. We'll thrash through that. So when you are doing qualitative analysis, how do you establish the reliability? Then we'll go through validity for both quantitative and qualitative, and the main points, and again using a case study. And then I'll spend some time on ethical issues and the research process in chapter 3. And here is we want to inject some seriousness into ethical issues and research process. Using the case study we'll have come with from the beginning of the chapter. So under ethical issues and research process, the Belmont report, ethical consideration, data management procedures, participant confidentiality, all those will come through. And then I will want to talk about assumptions, limitations, and delimitations, which we picked from chapter 1. I'll pull them back to chapter 3 towards the end, just to show alignment and continuity. And then, of course, very briefly talk about the unit of analysis in a given study. So I think, in my opinion, chapter 3 is one of the most rigorous parts of any thesis or dissertation. And I want to prepare your mind for that. Because in this chapter, we'll provide the basis for the researcher to develop your thesis or dissertation from the methodology plan. And this chapter will provide strategies and templates for the researcher when writing these course sections within your thesis format. And we shall discuss how to write the following 9 sections: introduction, within it the problem statement, the purpose statement, the research questions, the research methodology and design, the population, the sample, the sampling techniques, the instruments, the data collection, validity, reliability, and lastly, ethical issues and research process, and then lastly, the unit of analysis. So I'm hoping by the end of this seminar, the researcher should be knowledgeable about the 9 core areas of your dissertation. In fact, some people believe that chapter 3 can be made the nexus of the whole dissertation. And this is what we'll attempt to do. So that is an overview. I would like you to allow me to run through these slides, and I don't want to run through them very fast because I think we have students, and for the faculty, if you see familiar material, please bear with me. Dr. Mwaka, can you unmute those? Yeah, thank you. Please mute them. So this is the chapter, from philosophical underpinnings to the unit of analysis, understanding the foundations of research, that is research methodology. May I emphasize, you must feel confident and solid about your chapter 3. Just like we have emphasized with our literature review chapter, what we expect from you. So, as an introduction, when I'm doing the case study, I look at the overview of the research methodology chapter, but it provides a comprehensive guide on how to conduct research. And it includes the philosophical foundations, the research approaches, design strategies, data collection and analysis methods, sampling techniques, and ethical considerations. And this chapter helps in understanding the systematic approach to solving research problems. So research is scientific, research is systematic. What is the importance? So number one is an overview. Why this chapter? What is the importance of understanding the methodology in research? Why must you understand? Because understanding research methodology is crucial for conducting valid and reliable research. I wish I could emphasize that, because as Damaris was saying, one of our biggest criticism as a continent is that in Africa, we don't do valid and reliable research. So what am I going to do? I am going to make sure, and I repeat, that everybody understands the measurement of validity and reliability, so that your research indeed comes out as a piece of work that can be trusted. So that's the importance of understanding the methodology in research. It ensures that the research process is structured and coherent. Structured and coherent. We are not going to meander. We are not going to be haphazard when we are doing our thesis, and later on in life, when you are chasing proposals, fundable proposals from the various calls that will come your way. So it ensures the research process is structured and coherent, leading to accurate and meaningful results. I want you to feel that desire. And I want you to rest assured that this seminar, by the time we finish, even if it will take 3 parts, you will be having a mind that will allow you to see the research process as being structured and coherent, and therefore your results will be accurate and meaningful. This chapter 3 helps the researchers to choose the appropriate methods for their studies, choose the appropriate methods, choose the appropriate research design, ensuring that the research questions are effectively addressed. I want to cause anticipation from the Daystar University particularly. I know how your graduate book, handbook says about chapter 3, but we are going to, just like in chapter 2, I insisted on you telling me your sources of literature review. As an addition, I'm going to insist that under research design, you make reference to your research questions that are going to be addressed, because that then will allow us to convince ourselves about the method, the appropriate methods that we shall use to address those research questions. I want to pause here and say this. When I look at your research question, I should be convinced which path you're walking into. Right from your objectives and research questions, I should see that this student is going the qualitative way, if they're going to answer this question, or they are going the quantitative way, or they will be pragmatic. So you see, if you're talking about research design, qual, quant, or mixed methods, then we must bring your research questions to the table and say, because we have these research questions, we are going to use this type of a design. The research methodology aids in critically evaluating the research of others, prompting evidence-based practices. So, why is this research methodology very important? Because it aids in critically evaluating the research of others. I'll look at your research design. I'll look at your population. I'll look at your data collection. I'll look at your data analysis and evaluate it critically and give it a nod or say no. Very important. I want to refer to this metaphor again. Those of you, please mute your speakers. The iceberg metaphor for research methods. In fact, for research methodology. Research methodology. This is the research methodology. Look at the research methodology. And I want us to be clear. The research methodology will include the assumptions, the logic, the ontology, and epistemology, which will give birth to the philosophy of your study. Are you positivist? Are you interpretivist? Or are you a pragmatist? Which will then lead us to the methods, whether we are going to go quantitative, which is quant, qualitative, qual, or mixed methods. So what am I saying? Method plus philosophy plus logic plus assumption gives us methodology. So sometimes I see people write chapter 3 heading research methods. No, chapter 3 is research methodology. Methods are just these ones. Methods are just these ones. These ones. And then we'll get the strategies. But methodology is methods, philosophy, logic, assumptions, and methodology, which is equal to methodology. May I emphasize, what you see out there in terms of results of your study is just a tip of the iceberg. It's just a tip of the iceberg. That tip of the iceberg can be not telling you the inside story. That's why it is fallacious for you to run to methods without telling me the philosophy, the logic, and the assumptions. I want to repeat to all of us. We are also going to be different as Daystar. In our chapter 3, I know we did assumptions, limitations, and delimitations in chapter 1. I want a section as we close chapter 3 on assumptions, limitations, and delimitations because they form part of the methodology of the study. And we are not contravening the handbook. No, we are just making it richer as we go along. Let me talk about philosophical underpinnings. Research philosophy refers to the set of beliefs concerning the nature of reality. That is ontology. What is the nature of reality that exists? What are the measurements surrounding that phenomenon? If the phenomenon is density, how do people understand density? How do people understand pressure? How do people understand circumcision? How do people understand weddings? How do people understand death? So beliefs concerning the nature of reality is ontology. And the nature of knowledge, the construction of that knowledge is epistemology. And the methods used to acquire that knowledge is methodology. So what am I saying? In your chapter 3, can you please tell us your research, the research philosophy that anchors your study? And I'll illustrate this. I have other slides, not for today, for seminar 2, where I really want to give you examples of ontology and epistemology so that it becomes real. You know, when you just memorize ontology, epistemology, very nice. But the question is, do you conceptualize, do you understand what it is? So that will come in seminar 2 when we are looking at actual case studies. But I think it will be important for me to say something about these major paradigms. And let me go back here. The philosophy, the major paradigms, and then I'll come to the logic in a short while. Positivism. This is beliefs that reality is objective and can be measured and quantified. Typically associated with quantitative research methods. Ladies and gentlemen, it is just bad. It just reflects very bad on us. When I attend seminars, and I remember I had the privilege to do campus-wide seminars in Makerere in Uganda when I was, I think, in KICD. They used to have all faculties, different schools, postgraduate students come together. And I think it was sponsored by the Belgians or the Norwegians. And we would be there for a week going through research methods and helping students to construct their proposals. Something that I would like to see DAISTA do and other universities. And by the way, Parsitau, I was very happy about collaboration because DAISTA now is collaborating with Boston and Harvard in the area of artificial intelligence. And we want to assemble universities in East Africa or Sub-Saharan Africa to come and we engage with this new ghost called artificial intelligence and chat GPT. We can't do it alone if we want to make an impact. So I was saying it is very sad when you attend such seminars and you have students or lecturers just to pronounce positivism is a struggle. And now, when you have a struggle there, it just tells me you have not encountered that word adequately enough. So my students in masters and PhD, I always tell them, the best place to practice this is in the bathroom. Positivism, interpretivism, constructivism. Go back, positivism, interpretivism, constructivism. That is in the bathroom. But now you go to the books and you keep reading. And as you read, you pronounce it so that it becomes part of your language register. Then you really persuade your mind and your audience that you are a budding researcher. So you see, positivists believe that reality is objective and can be measured. And in the case studies, I'm going to give you examples. Interpretivists, these ones argue that reality is subjective and constructed by individuals and is associated with qualitative research methods. So if I'm measuring pressure and I am a positivist, we just measure what is pressure. By definition, we already have a definition. We already have a formula. Let us validate that with our study. But if you are an interpretivist, you are saying this is subjective and constructed by reality, by individuals or by reality. So you are saying circumcision, no. Circumcision among the Bukusu in Western Province is different from circumcision among the Terek in Vihiga and Nandi counties. So you go and sit in the situation in an ethnographic study. You sit there throughout the month of circumcision in Divisi in Bungoma or in Goibei in Vihiga, where the Terek reside. And you'll get realities constructed by individuals about what circumcision is. And then it is subject to interpretation. Constructivism suggests that knowledge is constructed through human activity and interaction. I want you to, particularly the PhD students, can you try to decipher the difference between interpretivism and constructivism? For the master's students, consider it to be the same thing. But for the PhD, constructivism suggests that knowledge is constructed through human activity and interaction. It emphasizes the importance of context and meaning. So it is a little deeper than interpretivism or interpretation because you are working towards developing an idea and even a theory. Pragmatists focus on the practical applications of research, does not adhere strictly to any single philosophy, but uses the approach that best fits the research problem. So some of us are pragmatists by disposition. Others are constructivists. Others are positivists. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to engage with this language register. It should not be foreign to you because we want to produce research that can be believed in. Now, what is the influence after the philosophy, after you have talked to us about the paradigms? First of all, you talk to us about ontology and epistemology. Then you talk about the paradigms like I've done. You then go to the research design. What is the influence of philosophy on research design? The chosen research philosophy influences the research design, including the formulation of research questions, the choice of methods, and the interpretation of the results. Very critical. So, if you are a positivist, your research design will be quantitative. And your research questions will be trying to establish the validity or the reliability of existing theories or formula. And your choice of methods will be survey because you want to collect large data. So your sample will be big. And when we do interpretation of the results, it will be through deduction. So what am I saying? We are not just talking about research philosophy because we want to look complicated or beautiful. No, we are talking about research philosophy because it influences the research design. And when you go to research design, you start with the research questions, the methods, the data analysis. Methods here means that population, data collection, data analysis, and interpretation of the results. Positivist research designs often involve structured methodologies and statistical analysis. So we are going to use structured methodologies. We are going to use questionnaires. mainly validated questionnaires or tools, and we're going to use statistical analysis. Interpretivist and constructivist designs tend to use flexible qualitative methods that seek to understand participants' perspectives. So here, if you are with me, you are the instrument. You, the researcher, you are the tool. As you take the conversations, as you record, as you take pictures of the activities, as you look through profiles, as you interview people, as you make observations, you are trying to get participants' different perspectives. And then from that, you will begin to develop ideas about that phenomenon, if it is Koito among the Turgen in Baringo, and then those ideas can then become a model for understanding why Koito is significant among the Turgen. Just the other day, I went to Kambani for a Koito session. But in Kambani, they don't call it Koito, they have another name. It's actually what we call a wedding in the girl's home. Even in Luya, we have it. So you have to be, if you are an interpretivist or a constructivist, you walk in there and you try to get an understanding of participants' perspectives. Let me finish the last bullet. Pragmatist designs combine elements of both qualitative and quantitative methods to address practical research problems. So remember, the practical aspect, where you're saying the qualitative approach, perspectives are good. The quantitative methodologies are good, structured methodologies, but I want to combine them to increase the validity or reliability of my findings. Let me pause there and listen to Othello. Come in, please.
Thank you, Prof. Could you please move back to the previous slide?
Okay. Sorry. This one?
No, the previous one where we have those constructivism. Yes, this one. Actually, what I'm looking at here, what I'm seeing here in this
Which slide?
definitions.
This one?
No,
Are you talking of this slide? This one?
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead.
So I'm seeing here that, okay, we look at positivism and then interpretivism and constructivism. I see these two, interpretism and constructivism, coming together. And interpretism, it is like, for example, the world view. World view is something that is subjective, depending on who these people are and where they are. But positivism is like a fixed mind, whereby somebody had decided that this is supposed to be so, full stop. But interpretivism, it argues of the subjectivity aspect is what I'm looking at here, so that it is not fixed. It depends on an individual interpretation of a situation. And it's like worldview. So I'm seeing here these two, interpretivism and constructivism, coming more together so that people can interpret situations as they see it. For example, the example that you have just given, going to Ukambani area. So they are having different word describing the same thing that you have, which you do in a different way in different regions. For example, in Kenya here. So people will look at circumcision, the way it's done, the way people are used to it in different region. It's different from another region. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Othello. At least I'm encouraged you are thinking. You are thinking, and that's what I want. But I just want to pick that up. And class, please walk with me. I was presenting a paper at a global conference 2 days ago on leadership in Africa. And Patrick Lumumba had been there the previous day, and he had said people in Africa should stop doing research on the problems of Africa because we already know the problems, which is logical. But when I came in, I said, do we really know the problems in Africa? And I said, look at the example of poverty. Poverty, what we know is the manifestation of poverty. But we don't know the problem behind poverty. And that needs research. Any wishy-washy attempt at trying to tackle poverty, just because you have seen the manifestation of the phenomenon poverty, will not solve the problem. And that's why we are not solving the problem. So, for example, in Kibera, there's a lot of poverty. Somebody will say there's a lot of poverty. You ask them why. Oh, there are no toilets. Oh, there's no electricity. People can't get a meal. Those are not problems. Those are manifestations of problems. Now, why do we have that situation in Kibera? That must be researched. So the economic model that has been adapted, the humongous creature called corruption. Corruption is a source of poverty. Yes. So we must look at corruption, research around corruption, and find variables for attacking this monster called corruption, and poverty will disappear. Poverty is lack of education. You don't have quality education. And so the human beings cannot engage in meaningful endeavor to overcome that poverty. So what do? 100% transition. You come to my school here, Lumino Secondary School, which has capacity for 300 students. You bring in 700, 800. You know, you are saying 100% transition. But you don't know the implications. When you look at an education production function model, what are the implications of doubling the population in that school? What are the implications? There are huge implications. First of all, in terms of funding, the economics of the education, but also the quality aspect. So what happens at Lumino? 700 students, we have 200 doing KCSE or 150, and the best student has a C+. What have you done by that 100% transition? You are just increasing poverty in the village. Yeah, because they have denied themselves resources to bring these students here. Then they go back to the village with no hope for the future, with no channels of engagement. You have increased poverty. That requires research. So don't say we know the problems. No, we see the manifestation of poverty in Africa, of political instability in Africa, of weak health systems in Africa. How do we solve them? I want to pause there for reaction. Any reactions from the class as we go along? We are not rushing through this because I really would like to establish deep understanding of chapter 3. Any reaction to this? So I argued in that conference that whereas I respect my brother, we know the visibility of the problem, but we don't know the problems, and we have to solve them. Yes. By the way, if there's no question, then I'll continue.
There's a
Prof.
question on the chat, Prof.
How
Earlier you please, you can lift your hand, you can talk, but it will be nice if you lift your hand so that we can be able to see you. Who was talking?
This is Alvin.
Yes, Alvin. Go
Prof,
ahead.
how are you?
I'm okay. I'm fine, Alvin.
Asante sana for this magnificent presentation that you are presenting to us and sharing your thoughts with us regarding research methodology and general the research in the research world. I don't know whether you are requesting for reactions regarding the African research that you have just taken us through, or the reaction regarding the methodology.
No. This is a postgraduate class, so just to have a free mind. We'll bring it back. After that, we will listen to George Magambo. Yes.
Asante. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Magambo, go ahead.
Thank you, Prof. I'm John Magambo. I'm adjunct faculty at USIU.
Yes.
I was with you in this conference.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yes. And I agree because we assume the problem based on the manifestation that what we see. And I see even in research, the students really struggle to bring out the problem that they want to research on. If you ask most of them to just state the problem without reading what they have written down, it becomes a struggle. So I agree that we really need to identify the problem before we go to the solution.
Yeah.
Einstein once said, if he has 1 hour to come up with a solution, he'll spend 55 minutes identifying the problem, then 5 minutes coming up with the solution.
True. Very good.
Thank you. Thank you very
much for that addition. Ladies and gentlemen, let's continue. I was talking about the influence of philosophy on research design, and trying to justify to you why understanding the philosophical underpinnings of your study is critical, because it determines the research design. It determines the path, the model you're going to walk on. Now, I believe in mind maps, and I want to encourage my students particularly to be adherents to this approach of knowledge acquisition, mind maps. So when you have a mind map, it helps you in the construction of knowledge, in the conceptualization of knowledge personal to yourself. So look at this, philosophical underpinnings. We have said there is positivism, there is interpretivism, there is constructivism, and there is pragmatism. Very simple: positivism, objective reality, quantitative methods. Interpretivism, subjective reality, qualitative methods. Sorry, I wanted to take this back. Let me take this back. Let me escape so that I can bring this. Yeah, it looks better that way. Qualitative methods. And then we have constructivism, knowledge through interactive approaches. So interacting with your respondents. This one. And then context matters. When I do the case study, you will see the difference. Context matters. And I've said for the PhD students on this platform, you must punish yourself to distinguish between, to begin to divide your mind. Am I an interpretivist or am I a constructivist in this study? For master students, I don't want you to belabor here. Consider them the same thing. Pragmatism, practical focus, mixed methods. You see, this is a mind map. This is all you need in your understanding around philosophical underpinnings, and then you can walk with that in your life. Similarly, let me go back to full slide. Similarly, I have mapped here research methodologies. Research methodologies. And it looks away, but I just sat down and said, these research methodologies, what is it all about? There's talk around research design. So what is it? There is talk around data collection. What is involved? We haven't gone there yet, so I'm not going into them. There is talk about research approaches, quant, qual, mixed methods. There'll be talk about unit of analysis. Are we collecting data from the individual, from an organization, from a country or a group? Unit of analysis. There is, oh my, we are dancing a bit. There is philosophical underpinnings, constructivism, pragmatism, positivism, and interpretivism. These ones we have just dealt with. There is ethical considerations. We'll come to that: confidentiality, data protection, informed consent. There is this, which I'm just about to start. After research design, oh my God. After research design, we have research strategies. We have research strategies. And we are going to look at various strategies: ethnography, case study, survey, grounded theory. Don't worry about this, and action research. These are the strategies you will apply within your design, depending on your research questions. And then there is data analysis, qualitative, quantitative. Quantitative, fact analysis, regression, statistical analysis. Qualitative, thematic. We have thematic, we have discourse analysis, we have content analysis. Again, I want to convince the PhD students that when you come to qualitative, if you choose to go qualitative, please go ahead and elaborate your analysis. Elaborate your analysis. Content analysis, thematic analysis, discourse analysis. My students at master's level, I would be satisfied if you just end at thematic analysis. But those who are ambitious can go into content analysis, as we shall see. Then there is sampling techniques. Non-probability, probability. Non-probability, snowball, convenience, purposing. Probability sampling, random, cluster, stratified. So it is a very strong learning strategy when you are able to do a mind map. When you are in your study on the table, just assemble all your ideas around research methodology, and you put them like this. This reinforces the learning process. And this is why research is complicated. Look at this mind map. Very complicated. And you have to tie these together in your thesis to give us the document that will win us international recognition and acclaim. Are there any worries, any points before I go to research approaches? Now, research approaches, we have agreed we have quantitative and qualitative approaches. I can see somebody in the chat worried about the literature review. And a few others. I'm just looking at the charts. Good points, but there's somebody worrying about literature review. I don't know what to say. Desmond, your hand is up. Please say something.
Prof, as Desmond is raising, I think for literature review, there are two sessions that you have covered for literature review on your YouTube. And I think people can take through that as they gap up. Probably they missed on the other sessions, but they can follow this.
Yeah. Desmond, let's go.
Now, Prof, I'm just inquiring. When we are doing our literature review, in what depth should we get into as we look at the methodology of the literature, empirical literature per se, which we are reviewing?
Yeah, and I'll take you back. I'll take you back and say this on this slide. I think the scoping of your literature review is actually determined by your research questions. I want to repeat that to everybody. That's why I am struggling with a chapter 3 that refuses to make reference to the research questions, just out of organization. You must, Desmond, go back to our research questions and the literature review, the depth of the literature review. Let me say how deep you go is when you are satisfied that the literature review has addressed a particular research question, a particular objective, a particular hypothesis in your chapter 1. Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mwalimu.
Okay, let's go to, unless there's any other issue, Caro, are you seeing any other issue?
Prof?
Yes.
Hello, sir.
Who is that? Please.
This is Alvin Moab. This is Alvin.
Alvin, yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Now, my question is about at what point does research methodology kick in when we are drafting the proposal? At what point does the mind map start coming in our mind when we are drafting chapter 1 and 2? Should it start kicking in at that point when we are just drafting the introduction and literature review, or at what point does it come in?
The mind map will come in your mind after every chapter. You see, you can't talk about research methodologies when you are in chapter 1 or chapter 2. The completeness of that mind map will be seen when you are writing chapter 5. But I'm encouraging you people, as part of your strategy of going through the research processes, to always mind map a chapter. Bring all the ideas that have come there and then begin to scribble notes around it. You see, like Desmond is asking, in chapter 1, there will be a box of research questions coming from research objectives, giving birth to hypotheses if you are pragmatic or if you are a positivist. It is by doing these mind maps that you reinforce your understanding of the whole process, and you can tick it off and say, I have done adequate contextualization around this area. So by the way, I'm trying to encourage you to know that how much you stretch in this research process will be a function of you understanding the concepts, the constructs, the context of research methods. Martin Olo, I think is Olo. Please come in.
Thank you, Prof.
That
Good
must
evening.
be another law.
Another Olo. Okay. Olo, come in.
Thank you, Prof. Good evening.
Good to you.
I want to, first of all, thank you for this insightful engagement on research. My concern in chapter 3 is the issue to do with the diagnostic tests. Where does the diagnostic tests come in chapter 3 when we are working on our research methodology? Thank you.
Yeah, and you just stepped ahead of me because those diagnostic tests are part of your approaches to data collection. I'm not, I don't want to get there because we'll come to that when we are doing data collection and data analysis subsequently. And it is embedded in chapter 3. So we're coming to that. All right. Any other issue? Somebody not feeling at home? I can see they have posted the literature review YouTubes. Now let's move on. The research approaches, quantitative and qualitative approaches. I think this is basic, but I thought we must bring it up here. Quantitative, the approach focuses on data and statistical analysis. Its aim is to quantify the problem and understand how prevalent it is by looking at numerical trends and patterns. The methods include surveys, experiments, and secondary data analysis. And examples is determining the average age of a population, measuring the effectiveness of a new drug. Determining the average age of a population and measuring the effectiveness of a new drug. Yeah. So that is, you're going to do measurement of the effectiveness of a new drug. In qualitative approaches, you focus on understanding meanings, experiences, and concepts. You aim to provide a deep understanding of the problem by exploring individual cases or small groups. The methods include interviews, focus groups, and ethnography. We'll come to that later. And examples is exploring how people experience a particular event, like the flooding in Kenya, poverty, the level of poverty, like the political trends in Kenya. So understanding the reasons behind certain behaviors. So why a good research question would be, why are the Western province people very, in quotes, democratic in their voting? So the problem is not what politicians are shouting, that people in Western don't come together to vote for one person. That's the visibility of the problem, if you think it's a problem. I think the main thing is here, why do we vote independently of other sub-ethnic groups? Or just independently? Beatrice Chuchu, come in. Your hand is up, or is it a mistake?
Sorry, it's a mistake. I'm sorry for that.
Yes. Okay, so bring it down. Quantitative versus qualitative approaches. And this is a summary. Quantitative, numerical data, statistical analysis, methods, surveys, and experiments. Those diagnostic tools that he was talking about. Examples: average age, drug effectiveness. Qualitative: meanings, experiences, concepts. Methods: interviews and focus groups. Examples: event experiences and the behavior reasons. But you know, there are those of us who think both of these do not give us a practical solution and might want to combine the methods to further validate our findings, to strengthen the findings. So there is a mixed methods approach. It combines both qual and quant, provides a comprehensive view by leveraging the strength of both methods. And the methods may involve collecting both types of data simultaneously or sequentially. I think those who have been in my classes, we know what we are talking about. And examples is conducting a survey to gather statistical data, like the floods, how many homes were destroyed, how many people were displaced, how much did the government put in, were there any deaths, was there a medical response? You are gathering statistical data and then using interviews to explore the findings in more detail. You now talk to the people to hear their voices of distress, to hear their cries, to understand why that area was so badly affected by the floods. Then you come up with a more comprehensive assessment of flooding and its consequences in Kenya. Choosing the right approach based on research questions. I want to convince you, I want you to note that this is so significant that the choice of your research methods will actually be a function of your research questions. So now you see the significance of you and your supervisor getting the objectives right and getting the research questions right. And the people in the master's class know those research questions will only be right if your problem statement is correct. So they will be born out of your problem statement. So the choice of approach depends on the nature of the research questions. Quantitative methods are suitable for questions that seek to quantify variables and measure relationships. Qualitative methods are ideal for questions that explore meanings, experiences, and contexts. And mixed methods are beneficial when the research questions require both numerical data and in-depth understanding. So the research question is very, very important. It will tell you whether you're going to walk into the quantitative space, the qualitative dimension, or the mixed methods approach to research. So I was talking about the research approaches. Now I want to talk about the research design.
Yeah, Prof, before the research design.
Yes, come in, Moni, thanks, yeah.
Yeah, if you put back the slide on the research approaches, quantitative, qualitative.
Yes. Is that the one?
It's not yet on. No, it's not yet on.
Okay, this one.
No, I think the third one, after this one.
This one? No.
Next.
Yes.
The one that was in graphical form.
Which one is that? Why am I not seeing it? Have I missed it? Was it here?
No, before mixed methods. I think the one before mixed methods.
This one. Yeah.
Okay, next one after that, before that one.
This one.
Sorry, I am seeing mixed methods on my end.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're seeing mixed methods when I do that. Wow. What are you seeing?
It hasn't moved.
I think the one on the screen is what.
Which one is that? Wakesa, what are you seeing?
Yeah, that one.
Which one? We have seen
Prof,
to be
that one.
Just a minute.
Quantitative versus qualitative.
Okay.
This one.
Yes, but you just moved away from it.
Do you know the one of research approaches? Maybe your screen is lagging behind. Prof.
Quantitative versus qualitative.
Are you seeing?
Yes, that one, Prof.
Okay, go ahead.
I think it has lagged.
I can see the problem. Yeah. Okay, just go ahead.
Oh, okay. It has jumped on my side, but let me just say what I want to say.
So now, Prof, go to that one. Let it stick there because his screen is lagging.
Okay. Is that the one, Wakesa? This one?
No, it is this one. It says that his screen.
Yes, that one. Quantitative versus qualitative approaches.
Okay.
That one.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Prof, I just wanted to mention that there are other developments, especially in the legal literature, which would tend to introduce another approach that is called the normative approach.
Yes.
And this is one in which then lawyers will want to study various laws, compare different constitutions, compare different case laws from other countries, and make recommendations of a normative nature of what must be done by way of changing or amending the law. I think I just wanted to mention that because we have some lawyers here, and I had invited a PhD student of mine from the University of Lusaka.
Okay. So why don't you put that in the chat? Huh? I'll pick it up and insert it in my notes. Future for the
very well. So thank you.
Yeah, that would be good. All right.
Yeah.
Now, okay, thank you for that. Research design. Dr. Mwaka, is everybody seeing the same slide? I'm a little worried.
Yes, I think it was Prof. Dr. Moniz that was lagging. For us, we're able to see real time.
Okay, Luke Nandasawa.
There's a question from Luke.
Go ahead.
Yes, Prof, thank you. My concern is when you talk about the research paradigm, the one aspect of constructivism. When you look at some of the literatures which are given, there are certain other literatures where they replace constructivism with critical theory. Are they one and the same or they are different?
Yeah, we will come to critical theory. Remember, I talked of critical analysis, critical theory. There are many things around strategies that we'll come to as we go deeper. But I'm glad that you are searching around that. That's good. So we'll bring it up, yeah?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Research design. Also, yeah, go ahead.
Excuse me, Prof.
Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Angeline.
There's some. Okay.
I wanted to ask whether when somebody's study is using the research hypothesis, is the choice of a research approach guided in the same way as to when another person is using research questions?
Yes, and later on we shall discover that the people who go quantitative jump immediately from the research objective to the hypothesis. research questions then remain in the domain of qualitative studies. Yeah?
All right.
Yeah, so we'll come to that, yes. And I'm glad you're thinking ahead, the segmentation. But you notice that some of our studies, if you are doing a mixed methods, you will set up hypothesis and you can still have a research question to cover your qualitative aspects if you're doing a mixed methods. All right?
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anderson and Bindi?
Thank you.
Thank you. Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prof. So my contribution is not necessarily of that much significance as to change or to alter the ideas that have already been presented, but there is something I struggle with at a personal level, even as I take this journey of academia. I'm a master's student. So, for example, when we get to philosophical underpinnings, and we say we have positivism, interpretivism, constructivism, and then pragmatism. I probably would be happy if there was room for other. That sounds sarcastic. It sounds even like a joke, but I would want room for other, because 20 years from today, I'll be probably in your seat and trying to drive innovation, trying to drive research. I don't want to say exactly the things you are saying. I want something new on the table. So it's neither here nor there, but I believe you probably get my drift, Prof.
I do. And it's dynamic. You just had a normative dimension being brought in by my learned friend, Professor Wekesa. Let me put it this way. This is, if you want to do a roof of a house anywhere in the world, you must construct a truss. That triangle framework up there, that is fundamental. If you want to do a foundation, you must dig the foundation to the level where you find stable substructure. That's what we are doing. But as you engage with research, we are going to find new thinking, new insertions, new deletions. But you must have that architectural solid framework in your mind, along which now you can develop and allow ideas to come out and evolve into other ways of doing research or analyzing research. So that's the mindset
I agree with you. I agree with you, Prof, and I understand it to the core of it. So, for example, if I use the classical example of the truss of the roof, I've been to the Bomas of Kenya. I've been to the Bomas of Kenya, and I took a keen interest. Well, somebody has a noisy background.
Yeah, I've asked them to mute. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So I'm just using that example to illustrate what I'm saying. For example, if I take the classical example of the roof, that we need that truss to be able to be the firm foundation around which that roof is established. I've been to the Bomas of Kenya, and that I've looked at that amphitheater, took a keen interest, took a lot of pictures to just see how it has been constructed. And interestingly, the roof does not have that truss at all. So I understand it when you say that we need to have, like the template against which we are doing this. But just thinking as an African, there is a passion that burns within me, almost anger, that when all these things are putting together, I want space on the side. I want space on the side that makes it possible for me to breathe a fresh air into that and makes it possible for me to breathe my individualism into that. The reason why I have taken long to do my postgraduate studies is because I just didn't want to be told how to think. And something like that. So maybe that's where that's coming from.
But I'm with you, Anderson. But you know, if you want to drive, if you want to have a car that is rudderless without a driver, you must learn how the existing car is, and that's a danger sometimes with us. There are certain realities, certain conventions. You must understand them. Then they will allow you to walk away on a different trajectory in life and become different. That's very important. If you want to write a book, you have to punish yourself and read many books. Then you write a book that is unique. You know, if it's in the area of leadership, you have seen all these books, they keep on defining this and that and that. And then after reading all these books, you decide to do a book that doesn't define leadership at all, and yet it's giving insights into leadership, and people get it. So I like that mindset. But I also want to remind you about Bombers. Bombers has numerous trusses. The African heart. Every pole on that side relates to the pole on the other side, and they meet on the wall plate. So there are numerous trusses there. Depends on how you look at it. Ogola, please.
Thank you, Prof. I had a question on the mixed approach.
Yeah.
If you are identifying let's say the sample frame, and we are incorporating both quantitative and qualitative approaches, I sense some difficulty in identifying the population sample, because one uses probability sampling, the other one uses non-probability sampling. So if you're doing purposive sampling, for instance, in qualitative research, can you then use that sample to extract quantitative data? Because I thought the answer is no. But if the answer is no, then how do you get quantitative data from a qualitative research?
Yeah, very good thinking. And that just tells me something. It tells me your theory or your learning around sampling and data collection needs to be reinforced. I think it's very important for you to note that in a mixed methods, you can work simultaneously or sequentially, simultaneously or sequentially, or you can choose to do what we call embedding. You can choose to do what is called embedding. So this is mixed. What are you mixing? It is the data. So when you get your data simultaneously, qualitatively, for example, and quantitatively, it means the two are being collected at the same time. Sequentially means you collect your quantitative data, then collect your qualitative, and then mix them. Now, embedded or embedding would mean this study is basically qualitative. I've collected data through qualitative means. I've done categorization, I've done theming, and then I'm going to do a quantitative aspect to measure some statistics, and I'm going to take that small aspect and embed it in my study. So there's a lot of thinking there, and I'm glad you are troubled, because you then need to read a lot around what are you mixing. You're not just mixing quantitative and qualitative. What is it? You're actually mixing the data as you go to your interpretation of your results. So that's what I would advise at this level. But let's move on with seminar 1. Seminar 2, with case studies, a lot of these things will become clear. Let's move to definition and importance. What is a design? A research design is the framework or blueprint for conducting a research study. So it actually gives us the procedures for every step of the research process. Why is it important? The design ensures that the study is methodologically sound and capable of answering the research questions. It provides a clear plan for data collection, measurement, and analysis. I want to emphasize, we have a problem. We have a serious problem around these three aspects. I want to emphasize them now at this level. We have a lot of problems around these three aspects of data collection, data measurement, and data analysis. And if there's something I want to try to push and cause clarity, it's around here. So don't tell people, go and collect data, whether they are interviews or whether it is observation. How do you do measurement? Many people think qualitative studies are very easy to come up with measurement. No, they are not. Very difficult. And when it comes to validation and giving us reliable findings, it becomes very challenging. And data analysis. In fact, data analysis for quantitative is all right because you're just using statistical packages and you get your answers. The research design helps us minimize bias. There's a lot of bias in our research that we carry out in the continent, and maximizing. And this is my mission. I want my students, I want my thesis that I sign off at PhD and master's level. We must maximize the reliability and validity of our results. And really, I want to encourage the supervisors on this platform. Please toil with your students in chapter 3 so that we are ensuring there's no bias. The sampling, when we say no bias, the sampling error is pushed very far away from the center where we're looking for reliability and validity. And this is something that we must deliberately do as researchers in Africa and also budding PhD and master students. There are many types of research designs. Experimental design, and this involves manipulating variables, the IV and the DV, including control groups and random assessment. So we will be looking at some examples, not necessarily with clinical trials and laboratory experiments, but we can consider, like in education, the classroom to be a laboratory, or in a school, or in Form 1. We can consider Form 1 as a laboratory with 5 streams and take 1 or 2 as control groups. And then we do random assignment and see the kind of results that come out. We would want to manipulate a certain variable. It can be as remote as the pedagogy of the teacher in different situations. It can also be involving certain textbooks. Which textbook are you using for teaching maths, for teaching chemistry? And we see the effectiveness of that text. But those in psychology here, you'll have your clinical trials. And I have said we must spend time in the area of psychology in these seminars, because psychology is the mother of statistics. And interestingly, some of us are persuaded that we can pursue psychology at those high levels without a firm and deep grounding in statistics. It really poses a problem. And it perpetuates a problem because these are practitioners. These are people like in psychology, clinical psychology, who are going to deal with real human beings. So we will want to cause interest, particularly Daystar, being one of the leading schools of clinical psychology and now counseling psychology in the country. There is the descriptive design, aims to describe characteristics of population or phenomenon being studied, does not involve manipulation of variables, but rather observation and description. And examples are case studies, surveys, and observable studies. I would be interested, and I want to emphasize, I'll be interested in a lot of our students going and being bold enough to engage in case studies where you have an in-depth analysis of particular phenomenon, particularly at PhD level, and we see the kind of outcomes that would come out. So I'd be very interested in seeing many of us going into those areas of case studies. Correlational design examines the research or the relationship between two or more variables without manipulating them. You're simply saying, this causes this. It identifies patterns and predicts relationships, but does not establish causation. So I can go to my home hospital, Moi Referral in Eldoret, and during the rain season, find out how many mothers delivered in the mother and baby hospital. And then also work on the weather patterns in Eldoret at that time. How much rainfall fell for that month. If I was doing this study for 1 month, I might find that there is a relationship between the amount of rainfall and the number of babies delivered in Moi and Teaching Referral Hospital. That is just a relationship. And how you interpret that relationship just remains at the Pearson R value, for example, that the Pearson R value is 8. That as more rain fell, there were more babies produced. But that does not establish causation. That doesn't mean the delivery of babies is a function or is caused by rainfall. I know that's a ridiculously extreme example, but I wanted to emphasize something. The quasi-experimental designs are similar to experimental design, but lacks random assignment. So you don't do randomness, you go for particular populations or experiments that have been done. Used when true experiments are not feasible due to ethical or practical reasons. And examples are studies evaluating education interventions where random assignment is not possible. So sometimes you can't configure that classroom. You can't configure the population in the JSS. It is there. So you work on it there, assuming randomness. Those are quasi-experimental design. And I want to say there are more designs. There are more designs. I've just picked a few that will kindly cover all of us here. There's a hand raised, Ruth. Is it accidental? Okay. Alvin?
Prof, how are you?
I'm okay.
I'm following you very keenly.
Yes.
Because I'm actually in this particular chapter for my research work, for my doctorate.
Very good.
Kindly clarify the designs that you are taking us through. Are they connected to the research questions?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The centrality of the research question. You see, for example, Alvin, correlational design examines the relationship between two or more variables without manipulating them. What you want to see the correlation about two variables. The research question will have asked that. What is the relationship? What is the relationship between qualification, postgraduate qualification, and performance in maths? So it's a correlation. You are actually finding a design that will help you answer the research question. Definitely. And experimental design involves manipulating one variable to determine its effects on another variable. So the people in psychology might want to know the influence of religion, in the mental health of pastors across the country in Kenya. How does religion contribute to their mental wellness, if any? You are actually addressing the question, the research question, by a particular experimental design. Yeah. So,
thank you.
yeah, that's what we're saying.
Excuse me,
Okay.
Prof.
Yeah, go ahead. Is it?
Yeah, it is Ruth.
Yeah, go ahead.
My question is, can one use two research designs in a study? For example, you've said that correlation does not show causation. So does it require that for one to overcome that challenge, you come up with another design? Maybe if you have that causation as one of the research questions.
Yeah, no problem. If you establish correlation, you might want to determine causation. Yeah. So instead of just doing for example, the Pearson R basic statistic, you might want to go deep and find the F statistic, or even do a regression model to establish which variables are into play. But I want to caution, you and your supervisor must know this path. How far are you prepared to go down that path? How far are you prepared? But no problem. I'm happy we're getting many hands up. Let's go on. Participants, is there somebody else? I've seen Ruth, Luke, have we addressed? Luke, come up. Yeah.
Thank you, Prof. I would like to raise a concern about the quasi-experimental design.
Yes.
And my concern is on the aspects of ethical issues. Because there is that aspects of lower internal validity. Because it says it is used to when two experiments are not visible due to ethical or practical reasons. And that means we face the challenge of lower internal validity. Because here we don't have random assignments, or it is harder to rule out alternative explanation for the observation.
Just a minute. Can we mute, please? Yeah, please come again.
Yeah, I was looking at the quasi-experiment design.
Yeah.
And on the aspects where it is saying that it is used when true experiments are not visible due to ethical or practical reasons.
I'm so sorry. Can the host mute?
I'm actually trying. I'm not sure that is. Look, is it on your side?
No, I'm okay. I don't know if I'm audible.
No, you are very clear,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
there is too much interruption, and it's not fair to you.
Yeah.
But let's try it again. Let's go. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, on a quasi-experiment, the second aspect, which is saying that it is used when two experiments are not visible due ethical or practical reasons.
Yeah.
And in this case, I'm seeing it having lower internal validity because without it has lower internal validity.
Yes.
Because without random assignment, it is harder to rule out alternative explanation for observed effects. And also, we have the potential of selection bias, where we have pre-existing groups that may have differences that affect the outcome. So how will be reliable is this research design?
Yeah, and you know, and I agree with you what you're saying. The bias is very high here, but I would like to tell the class this: quasi-experiments, their aim is to give estimates of the causal impact. The aim is to evaluate interventions, but without randomization. And you know, when you don't engage in randomness, and then you know the internal validity becomes a problem, like you're saying. So we are supposed to. This is an attempt at causality between an intervention and an outcome, but limited because it lacks the random aspects in the experiment. Somebody else can ask us, is quasi-experimental research qualitative or quantitative? Definitely, a quasi-experimental research must be quantitative. It involves numerical data and collection and statistical analysis. But the problem with it is that we cannot stand the test of validity and reliability. I hope we are communicating.
Yes, thank you, Prof.
Yeah, and just to add, particularly for my psychology team, what is the difference between a randomized controlled trial and a quasi-experiment design? I mean, you know, the RCTs, the main difference is that in the RCTs, the participants are randomly assigned, while in a quasi-experimental, the QEDs, what we call QEDs, the assignment is based on some other criteria, such as pre-existing groups, convenience, or self-selection. So really, many people would say, but then this is not a truly RCT. And I say, yes. Some people will say, but somebody's really playing around with their screen. Harrison Gure, you can please. So we need to be very clear here, and I'm glad that we are getting questions. There were some other hands raised up. I would like to. Are they still there? They are not there. Okay. Now, what are the factors influencing the research design? Is somebody in control of these things?
Prof, I don't know if someone, because that looks like whatever, I can help remove it, but I don't know if I take, let me see if I can try to remove it. I don't know, was it clear? Let me clear all the drawings. Don't know if it's okay. Undo,
Okay.
let me just undo.
Getting there.
Okay, I've done that. I don't know where it was coming, but I've done that. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, what are the factors, colleagues, that influence research design choices? Some of the questions you are asking, the research questions and objectives, the nature of the research questions guides the choice of design. For example, experimental designs are suitable for causal questions. Ethical considerations, ethical constraints can limit the use of certain designs, especially those involving human subjects. Resources and time, availability of resources, time constraints, and budget can influence the choice of the design. Study population, characteristics of the study population, such as size and accessibility, can impact on the design. And then practical constraints, feasibility and logistical consideration also play a significant role in selecting the research design. My take on this is this. This is the most significant. These two will be the most significant. And you know why? Because these two then are so determining that anything else that follows will either hold or not hold because of the influence of the research questions and objectives and the ethical considerations. Some of these resources and time, study population, the researcher can deliberately want to have some control on them. Research strategies. These are the different strategies, and there are many. I've only picked a few. There is in-depth exploration of a single case or a small number of cases. I'm not seeing enough, and I'm talking about my university, I'm not seeing enough case studies coming through. And yet case studies allow for in-depth exploration. Very important. Survey collects data from a large number of respondents using questionnaires and interviews, and many of you fall in this category. And then I am not seeing many studies on grounded theory, where you develop a theory based on data collected during the research process. By the way, if we take a phenomenon like, let me pick a phenomenon like the political dynamics in Kenya, particularly during an election year. You develop a theory based on data collected. Don't tell me a certain tribe votes as a bloc. No. What theory are you developing? Does it go back to the anthropology of these people? Their sense of cohesiveness? The influence of their language? Do you know there are some languages in Kenya that are becoming extinct? There are people on this platform who cannot speak truly in their mother tongue, but have visited homes of certain ethnic groups in this country. It doesn't matter whether the child is doing medicine or engineering, or the father is a professor or a judge in the appeal court. They cherish their language. And so language, you can develop a theory around language and other cultural imperatives that will guide or explain our political practices as an ethnic group. I'm giving an example. So how many of us want to get into new thinking and develop some theory? How many of us? And this is a rhetorical question. I really don't want an answer. But how many of us? Ethnography. And here I want to emphasize studies cultures and communities by immersing in their environment. I have seen many ethnographic studies, but they are too shallow. And you ask, my God, did you go to study circumcision among a certain group just to come and tell us the obvious? Because in an ethnographic study, we would like to see new attributes coming out from that study. A lot of the theses and at master's and PhD level, you wonder whether somebody actually immersed themselves in that environment. So what happens? The findings of your studies are obvious, and so they remain on shelves in the libraries. But the person who goes further, then the study becomes interesting. When I was doing my PhD in Kenyatta, one of my classmates did an ethnographic study on the predicament of twilight women in Mombasa, a case of Majengo. In Mombasa. And she went and sat there for 3 months, not to practice as a twilight person, but to live with them unnoticed. And she went out with them. She saw their behaviors. And she came out with a thesis that UNDP took it up and formed, this was a business class, formed support systems of funding for those women to get into small SMEs to empower themselves and walk away from the streets. Action research. This is where I would like to see a lot of you develop interest in action research. I would like to see a lot of you develop interest in action research. And involves a cycle of planning, action, observation, and reflection to solve a problem or improve a situation. Those of you who are dealing with human subjects, you want to improve their situation. You want to improve. Caro, can you mute? I want to see many of you in education do action research around the performance of maths and science in Kenya. It has been a dilemma for all these years. I want some of you to do action research around the status of CBC and what can happen. I want us to do action research on the bottom-up economic model in Kenya. Yeah, so that we can improve its functionality for the benefit of our nation. So when do you use a particular strategy? And I've just picked a few. A case study when detailed contextual analysis of a specific instance is needed, and it is suitable for exploring new or unique phenomenon. Survey, when seeking to generalize findings from a large sample of a population, useful for descriptive and correlational research. Grounded theory, when aiming to generate a new theory based on empirical data, ideal for exploratory research. And I hope, being researchers, particularly the students, when you see exploratory research, we are talking about qualitative analysis. So you should be able to take advantage of that. When do you use ethnography? When understanding cultural or social contexts in depth and best for studying behaviors and interactions within communities. Action research, when aiming to solve practical problems or improve practices through iterative cycles, and suitable for participatory and collaborative research. Advantages and disadvantages, I'll not go through all of them. Case study gives us detailed insights, but you can't generalize your findings and can be time consuming. Survey, it reaches a large audience, easy to administer using computer technology, quantifiable data, very easy to analyze, but may lack depth and potential low response rates. Grounded theory gives us new theories, but complex and time-consuming. Ethnography, rich, detailed, deep understanding. Note that time-intensive, but potential researcher bias. Potential researcher bias. Then action research, practical relevance, promotes change, collaborative. And the only problem is that may lack rigor, and the results may be context specific, maybe for Kabarak High School or for Jamhuri High School, and not for every school in Kenya. Data collection methods, this will be a major item in our seminar too. So I just want to emphasize there is primary data collected firsthand using surveys, interviews, and experiments. There is secondary data that has already been collected for other purposes but can be used for your research. Examples, academic articles, official statistics, previously conducted surveys. I want to add here, I saw somebody asked on the chat, when you do a meta-analysis, and I already have one or two of you who are interested in a meta-analysis, you are actually not going to collect primary data. Or rather, your primary data, the source of your primary data will be the secondary data. So in a meta-analysis, our primary data is the secondary data. So in a meta-analysis, you look at articles dealing with the problem at hand, but you define the whole, you do chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, but in chapter 3, you tell us, I am going to do a meta-analysis, and there's a way to format your chapter 3. Daystar produced the first meta-analysis PhD in the country last year, and we would like to encourage many other people, because don't reinvent the wheel. Go in an area that has been studied, look at all the studies, and then do statistical analysis and tell us the next variables that we need to manipulate to make a change in that area. That is a meta-analysis. Qualitative methods, you will do interviews, structured and semi-structured, or unstructured conversations to gather in-depth insights, and is used for exploring complex issues and personal experiences. Focus groups, group discussions moderated by a researcher to collect diverse perspectives on a topic, and it's very effective for understanding group dynamics and collecting views. Observations, particularly if you want to do grounded theory, systematic watching and recording of behaviors and interactions in natural settings, and very ideal for studying social processes and contextual factors. Quantitative methods will use surveys to collect quantifiable data from a large sample, and it is useful for generalizing findings to a broader population. Again, very, very important, the sampling methods in quantitative must be random. That's why the quasi-experimental presents quite a challenge. Experiments, controlled studies where variables are manipulated to observe effects on other variables, and it's ideal for testing hypotheses and establishing causal relationships. I am anxious to see my students, some of you get in this area, particularly those of us who are good in quantitative analysis. Please get into these experimental approaches, using experiments as methods of data collection. Then we have questionnaires similar to surveys, but can include open-ended questions for more detailed responses, often used for collecting self-reported data on attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors. So if you are doing quantitative methods, surveys, experiments, and questionnaires. If you are doing qualitative methods, interviews, focus groups, and observations. What are the considerations in choosing methods, your research objectives, or research questions? Nature of data. Is it qualitative or quantitative or mixed? The resources and time, ethical issues, and accessibility. Yes, consider the accessibility and availability of respondents or the data sources. So that is very, very important. And here's my mind map. Again, I'm reinforcing the idea of mind maps for researchers, not just in Daystar, but across. These are data collection methods, primary data and secondary data. Secondary data, official statistics, previous surveys, academic articles. Just note that secondary data in a meta-analysis becomes your primary data. Primary data, qualitative methods, we shall use interviews, focus groups, and observation. Quantitative methods, we shall use surveys, experiments, and questionnaires. You can see the value of a mind map, call it a flow diagram, in assembling your thoughts around data collection. And so you can tick, where am I going? I'm going qualitative, I'm going quantitative. So these are the things I need. Or, oh my God, I'm going into the mixed methods space, so I need both qualitative and quantitative. And then I want to do a meta-analysis, so my primary data will be secondary data. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to pause there. We have 15 minutes left to our seminar. But let me run through sampling techniques, because they are very basic. I'll just flash the slides. The sampling techniques, definition and importance of sampling. You know, sampling, it's a process of selecting a subset of individuals from a population to represent the entire population. Why is it important? Allows researchers to make inferences about the population without looking at the whole individual in that population, every individual in that population. It saves times and resources, and it ensures manageability of data collection and analysis. So sampling is important. There is probability sampling. We know the various types at this level. So I would advise you look at them: simple, stratified, and cluster. There is non-probability sampling, convenience, purposive, snowballing. Please note the difference between convenience and purposive. Convenience samples are taken from a group that is conveniently accessible to the researcher. Example, surveys conducted at a shopping mall or online polls. Purposive, participants are selected based on specific characteristics or criteria relevant to the research. Example, selecting experts in a field like doctors, like researchers, like statisticians, patients with a specific condition. And snowballing, you know, existing participants recruit future participants from among their acquaintances. And it's very important for studies of hidden populations, such as drug users or refugees, or even people with a medical condition that they would not want it to be public. So that is known probability. And a mind map of sampling, you have known probability, convenience, snowballing, judgmental, quarter, and probability sampling, stratified, simple, systematic, and cluster sampling. You will not be a researcher. I want to repeat, you will not be a researcher if you don't internalize things like the data collection methods, the sampling methods, the data analysis processes. You must ground yourself with them. And determining the sample, population size, you require large samples. Margin of error, smaller margins of error require large samples. Confidence level, high confidence requires large samples. Variability in the population requires large samples. Sample size calculations, use statistical data formulations or software to determine the appropriate sample size. Of course, this should not have been the case. Just a minute. I think this should have come here. There. So sample size calculations, use statistical formulas or software to determine the appropriate sample size, and then consider practical constraints such as time, budget, and resources. So that's how you determine the sample size. I don't want to rush through the data analysis methods. I think we just have data. Let me just check. We have data analysis, ethical considerations, and then unit of analysis. So there isn't much. We'll do that in our seminar 2. Start with that before we actually look at case studies. So I would like to stop there and not touch data analysis and the remaining aspects, just to invite comments, questions as we wrap up today's seminar, because we will finish at 8:30 and it is 2018 now.
Yes, Prof.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, that has been very well presented.
Yeah.
In terms of what you propose for data analysis,
yeah,
I would request that you also include a small presentation on the scales of measurement, the nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio, so that then as as researchers collect the data, we know then how to treat it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Caro, capture that for me. The scales of measurement.
Yes,
Yes, very, very important. Thank you. We'll do that. Any other observation, any other comments? Rosa Nyango?
Thank you, Prof, for that incisive presentation. I'm so impressed. I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
One, on factors influencing research design choices.
Yeah.
The field of study influence this? Like I have seen when we sit in many defenses, then you'll hear from colleagues that from languages, we want discourse analysis, from psychology, we want experimental, quasi-experimental, medical, we want, So does the field of study influence the choice of research design chosen by students? My second question is on meta-analysis. Does it matter if one is using secondary study? I mean, secondary data, and one does not get enough data from the local, from the local literature. There was a time I was reviewing an article on meta-analysis, and I found that the researcher mainly used mainly from foreign data, the global data.
Yeah.
And there was very little data from Africa and Kenya. So does that matter? Does that count? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Those are very incisive questions. First of all, on meta-analysis, that explains the African situation. If you pick any phenomenon, let's look at COVID-19. COVID-19 right now, there are in excess of 10,000, almost 20,000 studies and above. You find that very few of those, please let us mute, Caro, help us mute.
Let me check it out.
Yeah, you'll find that very few studies are from Africa. Maybe that's why we are on this platform tonight. So the answer is that does not constrain your meta-analysis. The meta-analysis we did with this candidate I was supervising last year was in communication, and she wanted to get material. She wanted studies where communication has helped in waste disposal control. You'll be very surprised the number of studies we got from Africa. Did that impede on our findings? No. In fact, we will not reinvent the wheel because of that study. we have already known the main variables that actually come into play insofar as communication and waste control is concerned. The other one, yes, the area of study can dictate the type of design or strategy you will use, but not always. So it will depend on you and your supervisor. But I'm glad that you're conscious of that. Any other input? 2 participants, hands raised up. Yes. Samuel, and then Boaz, Baruku.
Yeah, thank you, Prof, for that very in-depth. Now, one of our colleagues here asked whether you can mix 2 study designs. Kindly clarify, and maybe with an example, because my understanding also is that a study design is very central to things like sampling, how you'll even administer your questions. Will that mean that you'll have started off, say, with a case study, and then midway you feel like you want to go further and do a quantitative aspect? Is that how you'll do it? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I want to clarify. I think, I didn't want to use this word. It is possible, but it is hypothetical. I think we need to be prudent, we need to be rational, and within the limits of your PhD or master's time, you can have a research design that allows adventure within it. For example, you can be pragmatic because you want to play around with different aspects of data collection and data analysis, and then finally in the interpretation of your results. So I would want to leave it there, but let us be very careful. Even I'm just trying to imagine, even if I had all the time on this earth, you'll find a lot of complications, even when you are trying to harmonize the 2 designs and talking about the validity and the reliability of your findings. You'll have to do for each of those separately, and then merging them together becomes hypothetical. Next, Boaz.
Thank you, Prof. And I think it is always worth taking time, whether weekend or whichever day, to be in your class, because one always lives with something new. I wanted to reflect on actually what essentially our universities and other research institutions have been doing, because a lot of research work is done, but unfortunately, a number of these researches do gather dust without effect of implementation. And so when you are now talking about I think one of the research strategies, I think you brought into focus the action research as a very critical one, because this one has the potential of providing solutions. And indeed, I think you just overally, as you mentioned in passing, that it could be use of the scope could be minimal, or say within a school and all that. But I'm looking at it in a way that this can actually be one of the deal breakers to ensure that whatever is done, then when it is scaled up, I think the action research as a strategy would enable even the participating populations, actually the targets that you have within the population, you be able to even strategically even identify those the samples that you'll be interacting with, and building even their capacities or competencies to engage, because then they'll become the wheels through which the solution is provided. I do not know whether if that is the thinking that we may adopt, then the level of resources that would be required, and so that then, and even the timelines, because also it's supposed to be cyclic, I think, as you pointed it out, how that can be done. Because for me, I think it may give a new dimension to why we do the research that we do at the universities, so that we do not just do in partial fulfillment of the degrees that we are pursuing and people forget about them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Boy. I think that's a valuable comment, input, thinking. And I want to encourage some of you, particularly masters, you know, you have an advantage now. You're getting more grounded at this early level. So we expect a very ambitious group of people who would like to do action research on a scale that can convince funding to upscale the work that you'll have done. And so yes, I agree with you, but you know, the fundamentals must be right. And that's what I'm stressing in these seminars. We must, ladies and gentlemen, be at home with the essentials of research. It is so important. And not just gloss over something, you know, like philosophical underpinnings. I've seen many theses not making reference to that at all. So I now imagine the master's class, like the one we are dealing with now, my class, doing their PhD. That is something they'll even want to get a little deeper because they are grounded. It is only after being grounded that you can now explore and stand out. It's like my driver, for example, Nicholas, went through Rift Valley Technical as a mechanic, and then he did driving. He's totally different from somebody who just went to do driving lessons. He understands the car. There's a time, like, we delayed leaving Nairobi for the Kisi funeral because he wanted all the bushes replaced in the car and the brake pads and you know, skimming the discs. You must have the grounding, the theoretical grounding. Then the practice will go beyond. So even when I buy a new car, my driver will evaluate and he'll give me knowledge about things that I would not have known because he has the theory. So there was a gentleman who said, you know, he would like to break new ground and so on. That's exciting to me. But you must have the fundamentals in place. Then we shall move. Then Africa will be strong. Is there any other hand raised up? Any other comment as we wind up?
Prof, I know we are...
Yes, Prof.
Justin,
Yeah.
okay.
Two participants, Anne and then Justin Mulwa. Please pick it up.
Good evening, Prof.
Good evening to you.
I remember there is a day when you were teaching us about the literature review, and you told us you determine the method once you do the literature review. So I'm wondering if the topic, like my topic, teachers' perspectives, I think it directly takes me to the qual. So I'm asking, can I discuss the method when doing the conceptual framework? Or do I have to wait to do the literature review first?
Can somebody help me answer that question? Anybody who wants to answer that question? I mean, she's genuine, but how do we answer that question?
Professor Damaris.
Yes, go ahead.
Can come in.
Parasitau, you wanted to come in or somebody else? Who can help me answer this question? When the topic tells you perspectives, do you really want to worry about the methodology? You already know it. Do you have to do a literature review? Can I say that is a must? It is like in the Bible, you must respect your mother and your father if you want your days on this earth to be expanded or elongated, and if you want to receive blessings. So even if you have an idea that the methodology will be this, please engage with the literature review. There are so many perspectives and dimensions around that you get from the different studies in that area. So please do that. I know you are a willing learner from what you have just said, so do that. Any other? There was one more hand. Can we finish with that one, Carol?
Yes, that was me, Prof. And thank you so much. I'm glad. Actually, today I'm happy to hear you mention, we'll talk about meta-analysis.
Yes.
I think I have about
Justin.
2 questions. Oh, yes. Yes, Prof. My name is Justin.
Just be assured that we shall meet in the course of next week. I've now had a sense of your work. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. So I got a question, one or two. Number one is, does the university, does it have a policy on systematic literature reviews, stroke meta-analysis? And then I'm also thinking, Prof, under what circumstances would a systematic review be sufficient without the need to conduct a meta-analysis?
Yeah.
And finally, what thresholds, if not met or met, would now necessitate me to conduct or to take the direction of systematic review and end up on doing a meta-analysis?
Okay. Good question. Although that will answer, I'm your supervisor, hopefully, if you'll opt for me. A systematic, let me put it this way. A systematic review is inadequate at PhD level because we must get findings that are of implication to the knowledge in the area and also for the betterment of humanity. So when you do a systematic review, you're just reviewing the literature. But when we do a meta-analysis, we do the analysis of the 39 studies and we bring out the variables and even cause a regression analysis to tell us the next variables, the most prominent to be done if we want to change the situation, if we want to improve the condition, if we want to cause more influence. So it's not about policy. It's just about the depth of research rigor that I want. And when we start with your studies, we will do a systematic review. From there, we shall now walk down into the well, into the mines in South Africa, in the dark mines, to do a meta-analysis, to come out with the gold we are looking for. Yeah, so that's where we're going, and just maintain the courage.
Yes, a lot. Thank you. Thank you so much, Prof. And you mentioned about supervision. I'm from where I'm seated. You are my supervisor, and I'm happy to have you.
Okay. Thank you. You know I'll be paid. So Asante, they're employing me on a side note. Okay. Any other? I saw some hands. 2 more
Yes,
hands.
Prof, I know they'll have many questions. List on and then probably one, and then final remarks from the group of students generally. So since we have seminar 2, if there are other questions, they can also bring in on as we move to seminar 2, so that we don't have all of them asking questions today.
Yeah. Okay. So can we have
just a comment?
Yes, Liston.
Sorry, no need of duplication. Mine was on the meta-analysis, but has been answered. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. So, Prof, what I've done is just
a comment.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes,
Just
Prof.
allow me to comment on what was said about. I wish to comment on what was said about action research.
Go ahead,
Professor
Prof.
Ayiro, I think this is an area where we need to encourage, we need to push supervisors to think action-oriented, and this may be helpful. When I did my first PhD, which I started on in 1987, the hue and cry in Europe was about asthmatic children not being able to not being able to participate in physical activities.
Hmm.
Then, of course, the challenge I took on is how to work around their physiological structures, physiological makeup, to see how they could participate without an asthmatic attack being ignited. I then went around 3 children. I did research in 3 children's hospitals. Then from the findings, which I later on published and presented at conferences, that revolutionized the teaching of the handling of asthmatic children by teachers in the schools and by pediatricians practice.
Yes.
Now, when I did my LLB project, that was at a time when HIV and AIDS was blowing in Kenya like a very steady storm. And my concern then was whether the law could be used to help prevent HIV. That had not been done. There wasn't much done in that area. But then again, when I finished my findings, a task force had been set up to investigate matters of law. And then I was very happy to present my findings there. They were accommodated and used in making the HIV and AIDS law that is now in operation. Coming to my second PhD, the hue and cry in Kenya was about athletes in Kenya using prohibited substances. I did research on that. And out of that research, Professor, I'm happy to report that a whole parastatal was set up and a law enacted by Parliament. I did participate in that, and I was even invited to go to Parliament and help the lead of majority in answering questions. And I think as far as action research is concerned, supervisors have a big role to play here because they are the ones who first receive the concept notes. Thank you, Prof.
Wow. Thank you. I didn't know that. We should be having more coffee together. Daystar and all the universities who have joined us, I think something special is happening in this seminar. I hear a yearning for multidisciplinary research. I hear a yearning for collaborative research. And Prof. Moni has really brought home the value of action research. And then research becomes meaningful. I was in the School of Business at Kenyatta University for my PhD, doing business management. And so my topic was, I picked on social entrepreneurship. The role of social entrepreneurship, or was to that effect, in the mitigation of HIV/AIDS in Kenya, at the same time Mukesa is talking about. So it was not just about a study on social entrepreneurship. I related it to mitigation, the impact in mitigation of HIV and AIDS. That became very practical. And the material was used in the education sector. And we had new thinking around empowering people who were carrying the condition, experiencing morbidity because of the condition, because of the burden of HIV and AIDS, and how it could be overcome. So I agree. action research, what is it that you want? What do you want to change to improve, some improvement in the practice, for example, in mitigating the impact of HIV and AIDS? Apart from learning materials and sensitization, can we support these programs? So yeah, I agree. But Daystar, God is saying something. We can assemble and with our colleagues from other universities, set up a consortium that will help deepen the aspects of research and the subsequent outputs that will make Africa visible at the global level. Thank you very much. To you.
Thank you so much. I think, Prof, you definitely need to also have some rest. I've asked a few people to be able to just give a general remark, not more than 45 seconds, so that we have had over about 350 students on this platform, and I know by 8:30 most of them are logging out. 4 students and then a faculty that I've mentioned there. So we have Naz, and then we have Samia Bera, and then we do have Nazarene, Samia Bera. I think there's Alvin, and there is one that I'm forgetting here. Please give your remarks as I get the last person. And then for the faculty, obviously we have Professor Damaris Parsitau. I would like to hear how your co-host and co-facilitator make some remarks. And then we have Dr. Keino, the graduate dean that we do have. We also have picked Dr. Chekonyi from Turkana University. I think it would be nice to hear from someone from outside. And I think one more. Yes, and then Alvin, because Alvin, you have had the chance to talk more, and it would be also to give a comment. Yes, Nazarene?
Thank you very much, Dr. Ayiro.
Sorry, just a minute. If speakers can put on I want to spotlight you along the Vice Chancellor as you talk to him directly. It would be nice. VC, if you don't mind, you can pull it down. You can stop sharing.
Okay. All right.
Yes, Naz?
Thank you very much, Dr. Ayiro, for this opportunity to have to say something to, I would like to call him by what I believe he is, the great Professor Ayiro. I've been in your classes. I'm sure probably I've missed one, and every time I carry with me nuggets of wisdom, experience, excess, because you just don't give what is required, you give more than you ought to. So we want to thank you. A few weeks back, you called us to the main campus, and I made a plea. I know you remember.
Yeah, I remember.
And I'm grateful. I'm grateful because I know now you have ears and you hear. And I had chatted Dr. Ayiro to tell her, please, to thank you. Now we are at a place where we hear psychology coming into research classes. And we're having examples that make sense to us. Because if you give us examples in business and in communication, they'll clearly pass through and have no meaning. Now we are having classes that make meaning to us. So we thank you sincerely on behalf of the psychology students.
I like you. I really love you, Nazarene. Keep it up. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Nazarene. All the best in your comprehensive exams tomorrow. You are still
very
on.
much.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. Sam?
Thank you, Dr. Ayiro. And I want to take this chance to most sincerely thank Professor Ayiro for the very insightful lecture tonight. But I also want to appreciate the fact that you, as Daystar, organized to have different faculty from different universities across Kenya. And of course, for inviting the special guest who shared with us insights into her career and how she considers research to be very important. And I believe that I will be speaking on behalf of my colleagues, students in the master's degree level, that yes, Prof, your introduction to the research methods actually, I think, has opened our eyes and minds. and yeah, I picked the element of mind maps. It appears like it's a very simpler way of handling complex issues, and I want to think that we all look forward to seminar 2. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Nyabera. Nyabera, where are you now? You're speaking from?
I'm speaking from Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan.
Okay, yes. How's the weather there?
It's very hot. We are handling 45 degrees now.
Oops.
Yeah, but fortunately we are taken care of well. Our houses have air conditioners, so we manage.
Okay.
Yeah, it's tough. We are managing, and we thank God.
All the best. Yes, next. Who is next, Carol?
Harrison Gure, just to get someone from outside the university. Harrison, I know you're from UON, I think. Speaking, but either your mic is bad, so we can't hear you, but we can see you speaking. Unfortunately, Harrison, we cannot be able to. We can.
Okay, go on. Who is next? We can pick him later.
All right. Then Alvin, is Alvin still on?
Yes, I'm around.
Okay, please go
Professor,
ahead.
how are you?
I'm fine.
Hello,
fine.
Prof.
I'm fine, yeah.
My name is Alvin Kinji Mwabu. I'm a PhD candidate in the University of Nairobi, and I'm also a lecturer in your institution, DSTA, School of Nursing, part-time lecturer. And let me take this opportunity to thank you for this magnificent presentation. To the students who are pursuing their masters and PhDs, you and me can agree on this platform that Professor Laban Peter Ayiro, indeed you are a hero. You are because you have taken this opportunity and trained the world. Remember, this presentation has gone far and wide beyond Africa. That is why I'm taking this opportunity to say that, Prof, you are a hero and you have actually taken the right trajectory to teach the world what happens in research. And you know, research is what brings in discoveries and innovations.
Yeah.
You are one of the best. God bless you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm touched, and may God bless you too.
Finally, Mokaya, now I'll stop for the students. We have had everybody talk, and then we'll have the faculty. Mokaya, finally, then all the faculty members are like to postlight you along with the Vice Chancellor.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Patrick Mokaya. I'm a student in Kisi University, taking a master's in counseling psychology. Dr. Rose, who have just spoken some few minutes ago, was my actually lecturer. I want to thank the Professor Laban Peter. Indeed, you are a hero. There are a lot of things that I've been fearing. I'm about to start my thesis, and this has been a problem. But you have opened actually my eyes, and I want to say that I'm now confident enough to begin as I wait for the second baby seminar. Again, I'm requesting, if it is possible, that you may share with us these notes, because they are very wonderful. They are like a gold, kindly.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Be blessed.
Thank you very much. And everybody on the platform, you know, people don't understand, but one of the biggest gifts you get in this life is not money, but when your heart is encouraged. So all of you are encouraging my heart, and I'll go out of my way to do even more in this area, sharing my ideas and just triggering something in you people. Thank you very much. Yeah. Go ahead, Carol. Who's next?
Obviously, our guest and one of our co-deliverer next week or next session, whenever it comes, I think we're really honored. Prof, I don't know, what do you feel about this over 350 students, Prof talking to all this, the knowledge. I don't know what you're feeling.
I am amazed. I lack words to see over 300 students from across the country and beyond tuning in to soak in knowledge from one of the best leaders in this country, from one of the best sages who is not just an example, but I don't know how many of you know what a gift he is. How many people of his caliber on a Saturday evening who has been waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning to be in the office at 6 a.m. would spare 3 hours to robustly engage students who are hungry for leadership, academic leadership, and research leadership. I thank you, Prof. I'm so touched, I don't know what to say. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you. You are a gift to this nation and you are a gift to these people. And I just want you people to think, you know, what's the best gift you give a person who invests in a generation of a country like this? It is to pray for him, to commit him to God for strength and grace and knowledge to continue to pour, because we are all really being washed with so much by this man. So I'm honored, you know, to have co-hosted this. I mean, I was more of a participant than a co-host, just sending him my energies from across. But just to say two things, I noted a hunger for education, for research. It seems to me that there is a very, very clear gap in our system that generates this hunger that all people want to join into this and tap into this knowledge. And that calls and challenges us to arise to the occasion and help Professor to fill in this gap. The other thing that I think I want to say is, and I'm sure I wouldn't even add anything to what the professor has said, is two things. Develop curiosity as you go to do your research. You cannot do your research without curiosity. Be curious to know the subject that you want to research on. What is it that is inspiring you to go into that? Once you develop curiosity, it becomes, of course, not a walk in the park, but it becomes a lot easier. Another thing I would say is approach your research with humility. Go out there to learn. Go there like an empty slate. Because if you go there with the impression that I know everything, I'm just really going to do this so that I get my PhD, it's a pointless, it's an exercise in futility. So go to the field with humility, be humble enough to be guided by people who have been tested, who have done robust research across the world, and be deeply appreciative of the giftings that we have been gifted today. So I'm grateful and I thank you, Professor. Thank you for inviting me here. I'm so happy to support this project in any way that I can, because what you are doing is investing in a generation of 21st century leaders for this country. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Damaris, and you always have a very kind spirit. Maybe that's why God has lifted you from your Maasai environment to where you are today. And I know your heart, so I take it in deeply what you have said. And we're asking God to tell us what He wants. What does He want? Yeah, and we are ready to see ourselves. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, Caro,
Thank
back
you so
to
much, Prof. I hope maybe we should really get a huge fund to train the whole of university faculties in this country. And your office can influence that. And then we make it, and then now we go to students maybe one of these days. I don't know, but I think there is a problem of teaching research, and we must start with our supervisors who are the faculty members. Thank you so much, Prof. We can see you next time again, God willing. Dr. Keino?
Thank you so much, Dr. Ayiro. Prof, on behalf of the Directorate of Research and Graduate Studies, Postgraduate Studies, I'm so sorry, on behalf of Directorate of Postgraduate Studies, I'd like to thank you so much for sacrificing your time. A lot has been said, and I don't want to add more. I just want to say that it is good for this team to note that we have the university actually has patented and registered actually IGCSF, which is Inter-University Graduate Students Forum. And so we will be creating a WhatsApp group for all to join so that you are able to share the notes. I can see you're really asking for the notes. And I just want to thank Prof. It is not everyone that actually allows to share their notes with students. You've been so generous and you've given, and we are just praying that may God give back to you 1,000-fold. You will not lack and you will actually be blessed because you've been giving. I know it is late. I will not talk much, but on behalf of the directorate and on behalf of data faculty, we are so grateful. We are learning a lot. Personally, today, actually, I've learned a lot. So thank you so much, Prof, for your time. And thank you so much, Caroline Ayiro. I know you're not in Kenya. May God bless you and may God continue to give you grace, Daktari. Asanteni sana. Good night.
You unmute, Prof. Unmute.
Thank you, everybody, and stay well. Next seminar, God willing, same time, Saturday.
Prof, we still have just one, Dr. Martin and Chepkonyi, and then we will finish. Dr. Martin?
Okay. No, and then let me say this to Dina. Dina, you know, I challenged you, Kano, to pick up the battle and show the difference. And I think sometimes when we see things working, we forget it is the spirit of the person behind it that encourages people to move. So I keep praying for you also as you settle in that directorate. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you.
Dr. Martin, and then Dr. Chepkonyi, you represent every other university that is not Daystar faculty from everybody else, and then that will be nice.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ayiro, all the way from your hideout, which shall remain unrevealed. But thank you for doing the work you're doing. And Prof, thank you for always offering yourself, even when you should be enjoying your weekend, especially as you mature as wine. You should be spending less time, but you seem to be having time for this. One thing that I really appreciate is your passion for matters research and your passion for rigor around how we can improve our inquiry. And I like there's something that Professor Damaris said. I keep telling students that research is about something that you are curious about. So it's just a question of keeping on working around your curiosity. That's how you then discover or you help us to hit some knowledge or some new things that we would want to know. So really to encourage us as Daystar, and you have no idea, Prof, that I started following you from quite a while, even before I joined Daystar, especially around this research, and I kept on being edified. And I'm also happy to have my good professor, Dr. here, because we have very serious arguments that we engage on in our school around law and research. So this is edifying, and we'll surely make sure that you keep coming around as a referee between myself and him as we fight over what we should be engaging on in research in the School of Law. So pretty happy to be here. Thank you.
Martin, thank you. May God bless you too. I like your candidness. Sometimes people think it's confrontation, but that's how you get the best out of people. Yeah, you challenge them. Just like Moni, now I can see we are forming a congregation of people who will take Daystar to the next level in terms of research. We thank God. Thank you very much. All right.
Finally, we finish, and then we can have our guest, Professor Damaris Parsitau, pray, and then we leave.
Yes, thank you. This is Dr. Chepkonyi from Turkana University College. So let me take this opportunity to thank each one of us. More especially, let me thank Professor Damaris for your presence and your readiness to work with us. Let me also thank Prof. It has been incisive, it has been informative. It has expanded actually our academic horizons by bringing in new trajectories in the academic landscape. And especially when you simplified the research methodology into those mind maps, it was actually quite convenient and very easy for our postgraduate students. It has been truly inspiring, and we are really appreciative. Let me also thank Daystar University for organizing this and the invite I got from one of you. Otherwise, we are quite happy. And even from the questions that arose, there seems to be some few gaps which, Prof, you have addressed quite well. Otherwise, thank you so much, and be blessed in abundance. And for the students, let this not be in vain. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, my brother from Turkana. In Lodwar, I've been there several times. I've mentored Lodwar boys. I've gone to the girls' school.
Wow.
We had brothers there. They had a school, a mixed school, Catholic, big school.
Yes.
I've been there mentoring them. So, and then when I went to Lodwar boys in the dining hall, there's somebody who got a first division. I'm thinking of his name, and he's now one of the greatest minds in America. Americans have adapted him. He's not a Kenyan now. He's one of the greatest physicists in the world from that school. So there's, it's amazing how much we are losing as a country.
It is true.
When we don't have education in those areas, starting with Mandera, Turkana, Lodwar, Samburu, it is on those in those hardy places that you get the best of human beings, and we've never realized that as a country. You look at Professor Godana the late. What a mind!
Sure.
That. And I keep saying, and that's what I'm saying. Many of us don't know what the problem is. Yeah, the problem in Turkana is not that harsh environment. The problem is deeper. We have not then manipulated variables to get the best out of those people. So I am excited you're here, and I remember the days I spent we had a DEO there from Eldoret,
Yes.
very determined person, and we went up to Lokitang in his Land Rover. So
Wow.
I appreciate, and thank you for being on the line, and please make sure that Turkana University thrives, not grows, thrives.
Thrives.
Yeah.
Thank you.
May God bless you. Thank you. Yeah.
Amen. Thank you.
Prof, you can pray, Damaris, as we close.
Let's pray. Father, we just want to thank you for this day. We thank you for the gift of life and the gift of knowledge and education. Thank you, Lord, for this wonderful session. We are so grateful for the gift of Professor Laban Ayiro. Thank you for the gift you've installed in him and the burden to raise a generation of educators and leaders for the next generation. I thank you for all the students, the staff, and everyone else who's been a participant of this wonderful session. I pray that you bless them with their families, grant us health and all the good things that this world can offer. We give you praise tonight, and we thank you, for in Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
All right.
Amen.
So, Prof, when is the next seminar? I think they're really insisting.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
We'll let you know about the next semester. The next seminar we'll be announcing. God bless. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Good
Bye.
night.